And welcome back to another episode with the Real Teachers of Atlanta. That's so dry. I am Ty.
I'm Nikki.
Joya.
And today we're going to be talking about 504s and IEPs.
Oh, okay.
Y'all ready?
Thought we were talking about something else. I gotta mentally prepare myself for the topic.
So
Let's get to it.
We got the queens in the house, y'all.
Hi, I'm Mrs. P. Smith, the Mama Bear at school, your favorite ELA and SPED teacher, but always teaching my students about business.
I'm Miss Rose, commonly known as the snarky teacher, always ready with the good candy. The kids say I'm their favorite math teacher. After school, it's lights, camera, action. During school hours, it's Miss Carter, the life science teacher saving lives.
We got the queens in the house, y'all.
All right, so what are we talking about with the 504s and IEPs? Just how we get there, what we're doing with them?
Do you think that they're helpful?
Sure.
In the grand scheme of things, by the time the child becomes an adult, did the IEP facilitate in the child's academic growth?
No.
That's a good question.
I think there's a solid no answer.
No? Okay.
Why?
Because the real world, you don't have, in the real world, beyond high school, you do not have an individualized plan. You don't get help like that. You gotta, right. You gotta do what you gotta figure it out. You gotta have what you need. And I understand, I'm not talking about, people that maybe have disabilities where they can't live alone or whatever. I'm talking about, like, if I have a 504 because I have ADHD or something, right? Okay, you got to figure that thing out as an adult. You're not getting extra time at a job to do no work. You're not getting fewer answer choices on a resume. You have to do those things. Now, I do think that in school and high school is a good time to really start to push them in that direction to make sure those skills are there. Do I think that happens at every school? I can confidently say no. And that's why I feel like students are not fully, when they have a 504, I don't feel like under a 504 or an IEP that students are fully prepared to exit public education.
Well, there are two different things, first of all.
Sure.
A 504 and an IEP are not on the same playing field.
Right.
504s, they cater more to accommodations. Where your IEP is an individualized educational plan for students. So I don't think it's something that needs to bleed beyond school, because that's what it's there for, to make sure that your child that has a learning disability has the plan that they need to be successful in K through 12 education.
But what happens beyond that? Because K through 12 education is supposed to be preparing you for the next level of life, the next phase of life, whether it's higher education or going into the workforce to start your own business.
Well, hopefully with those skills or those things that the teacher has said, this is what the student needs to have in place, like the goals and objectives to prepare them. Hopefully those things will help the child be able to, be successful beyond K through 12.
Well, no, I will hope. It just feels like, I've just seen where I know that in high school we start to pull back, right? So the students are more independent, but, or there's fewer accommodations as they get older, at least here in Georgia. And at the end of the day, those students still get dumped into society, and because they graduate and they got to go to work.
All kids get dumped into society. I mean, if you're in general education, you're going to go off into society. If you're on an IEP, you're going to go off into society. So I don't think that it's not going to travel with you, in other words. Right. I mean, only the things that you've learned, the things that you learned in school, or those, hopefully you'll take those things and, move forward as you graduate. But that's it. Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that once you get into the real world, for example, there may be something on the IEP like extra time on test or a modified seating. Mm-hmm. So if I'm at a job, I'm not going to get modified seating.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Or I'm not going to get extra time to finish whatever, for example, whatever cubicle work that I have. I'm going to have to keep up with the general population of people. So it can get a child through school. It can teach them the skills that they need in order to be a productive adult, depending on what type of disability that they have. Right. And it can be a crutch as well. It can serve as a crutch for a student because the reality is that, you know, there is no life modification. You're kind of in a bubble when you have, well, let me see how I can say this. You're in a bubble when you're in middle school. So they try to wean the child off of the IEP once they're in high school. Mm-hmm. But I think IEPs are important for students that need specific individualized plans. All students need an individualized plan, even if they're not in special education, because all children don't even learn the same. Correct. But I think for me, my concern is what happens to the child when they become a special needs adult. And I'm not talking about a person that has to live with other people. They have serious mental health disorders. I mean, people who have like the ADHD, the ADD, dyslexia, just different things like that. How do we modify the world so that they can be an active participant and not feel left out?
Right. I mean, we have the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that helps with employment, but there are jobs that some people aren't going to be able to do, right? So if I have a disability of like vision, I'm vision impaired, right? There's going to be a job where my vision is needed. That's the critical piece. I'm not going to be able to do that job, right? I'm probably not going to be a pilot. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that someone can't, that it's just an absolute no. But what I am saying is I have to now be conscious of these things. And the world as it is not conscious of me. Well,
the 504 is a civil rights law. Like the 504 comes from that act. It protects people with disabilities.
Right.
So are you saying that you feel like IEPs are overused? They're given too often?
In my opinion, I do think that they are overused. And I said that season 1. Yeah. I think that they are handed out like candy. Mm-hmm. If a kid seems like they're too difficult in the classroom, let's do let's hold a meeting to see if he's eligible for an IEP.
Can we make them eligible?
Yeah,
it's almost, and I feel like I agree with it, that we've seen it where kids are like, they're just a problem child, right?
Yeah,
there might be some behavioral issues. Behavior is not always due to a disability, or they're just behind because they haven't gotten what they needed earlier in life, right? That's not a disability. You're at a disadvantage, but it's not disability. We can teach you where you need to go. It might take us a little longer to get there, but you're not disabled. You just weren't given what you needed. That's a difference. But I feel like we use IEP as a Band-Aid
and not get into the core root of the problem, which could be maybe the child needs more of an individualized plan at home.
Or it could, not to cut you off, but I didn't want to lose my train of thought. I'm sorry, Joy. But we talked to Principal Cherry earlier.
Yes.
How he talked about teachers not doing what they should be doing. Some teachers are not doing what they're supposed to do in the classroom. Right. So therefore they may not be reaching the child, and so we automatically think this child is behind, and they need those services. I mean, some kids, they do need them, but I've been around some students that knew how to knew the game, system. If I get on this IEP, they can't fail me. I don't have to do the work. I could do half the work, and I'm going to the next grade.
And they know those accommodations, and they'll remind you of what they are supposed to get. I'm supposed to get extra time. I need time and a half. So I want my hour and 30 minutes to take this 5-question quiz.
I want to go back to the not being able to fail a student. So with students with IEPs, from the ones that I've written before and from the students that I've had on caseloads, I have been told in the past that you cannot fail this student, even though they are not doing the work. So again, that's another, I guess, what am I trying to say? That's another example of how IEPs can be very crippling to a student.
That's not true.
That is true.
You can't fail them.
They can be.
At least that's
failed.
what I've been told. I don't know if that's true or not.
When I took
It
that
will
course,
look-
it is. You have. There are stipulations, but that's not.
I'm telling you
pejorative
from the horses, the people that
from the book.
You
I went
can't
to the
fail
courses.
because
can't fail.
they feel like there's no way a child that's on an IEP should be able to go in anyone's classroom when they have accommodations and modifications that you, the teacher, are supposed to follow and make sure this child be successful. There's no way that you should be able to fail a student. And many times you have to look at the baseline when you're looking at IEPs when it comes to goals. What is the baseline? You saying, okay, the child made a 40, they fail, not according to their baseline. So a child, if you think by, okay, general education terms, oh, they didn't make a 70 or above, they're going to fail. No, because their IEP said if this child at least make a 30 or 40 according to their baseline, they're going to pass on goals and objectives.
Correct. But they can also fail on that. That is not, there is no, if you go back to because when I took this course, I had to go through that same stuff.
I'm in it.
They can fail. Do we do it? No. Is it the norm to do it? No. But can they fail if they don't meet their goals and objectives? Yeah, they can.
You show me a child that's on an IEP and they failed, then bring them back to me.
I didn't say that we are doing it. I'm just saying it's not disallowed. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we do it because nobody wants to work that hard to fail the child, sadly. And it's a lot harder when they have an IEP to do it because you got to prove somehow that there's like a regression.
Then you tell a teacher one time that the police was going to be up there in that classroom?
And why you think I don't know the book? That's why I got my certification.
God, you did not just say that.
And that's why I got my certification.
So I tell you what.
That's why I said I know we're going to move them right on to the next grade. Yeah. That's why I know we're going to do it.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying
I tell you what, when you fail that student, you see what the police is going to be at.
Admin ain't going to let you fail them if you can't prove it.
Dang.
So we already know that's true.
I mean, there's enough data. I mean, you're taking data on this one kid. You're seeing that they're not doing the work. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. You're right, but it's not going to happen.
Our teachers really taking the data. Like, I know.
No, I'm telling you. No.
Okay, there we go.
Well,
no. It's a lot.
So they just put them in special education. Okay, here's my 3 data points. He need to go on.
I've met teachers that don't know what data points to get.
Okay.
Like, that's a real thing.
Or they don't know how to take data at all.
Right.
Because the process, the RTIs and the MT, like the process from what I've, like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It is.
And if you got a class of 30 to 35 and you trying to identify, you got at least 3 that you're trying to identify. And I know how consuming it is to take data. So I can only, I can imagine how many kids are not being identified to be in special education. I always hate to go back to the demographics, but it is what it is. Why are our kids the highest amongst the highest when it comes to IEPs?
Because of behavior.
But they're not. No, it's not always on behavior. Our kids have learning disabilities. Where are they coming from? Why are our demographics always being identified as?
Who's identifying them?
It's the question of who's identifying the students, and then also what are they identifying? It could be low math scores, low reading scores. Is that a disability, or is that a lack of resources? It's a combination. So a lack of resources, parenting,
Here we go.
assessing and catching that your child can't read at a very early point. because by the time we get them in middle school and some of the kids are not able to read and they're reading on a kindergarten level, what happened between K through 6?
What happened?
Some adult, because they're the child. So what adult dropped the ball? Is it a learning disability?
Or need an intervention?
Or is it a need for an intervention? And most of the time, it's not an IEP that's necessary.
Right.
Well, now it is, because now there's a serious problem.
Right, now
this is
it's
an emergency situation. But I think to label the child as being a person with a disability, no, I think that they were failed at some point.
Agree. I think that's a good way to say it, is that they were failed, because you're saying, what happened K through 6. I'm saying what happened at 1 and 2 years old and 3 years old, when you should be sitting there reading to your child and introducing them to language and talking to them, not in baby talk, but in normal talk conversation.
Right. Exactly.
And introducing them to text and music, right? Where they can start to build those skills. Because then when you get to pre-K 3, pre-K 4, your child should be able to identify cat, dog. These are my body parts. This is my name, and I can spell it.
Right.
But we have kids in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade. They can't tell you the sky blue. 5th grade don't know how to. We're gonna go right
They
back.
don't know
He don't know
their
how to spell his name. Or can't tell you my mama phone number. That's a problem.
Cake in kindergarten. Okay, I'm in middle school.
Cat.
They don't know it.
House.
And it's bad. And I think we don't stress literacy. And the problem is, the other part of it is,
I could put my kid on an IEP. My kid can get on an IEP. I could do half of the work when it comes home to doing homework. It's less homework. Involvement that I have to do. My child is going to pass. Or I become very knowledgeable of the IEP when little Johnny gets in trouble at school. That's when I know all what's in the IEP because he is protected, because some administrators, you can't do such and such to little Johnny because it's in his IP. Also, it's a rite of passage to act a fool.
Yeah,
right. Or he has a BIP. That if there's a
that's
BIP
part
attached,
of and IP, the behavior plan.
What set him off? What was the precursor to his behavior becoming atrocious in the classroom? What did you do?
Well,
as an
his
instructor,
disability.
It's his disability that's having
these are the symptoms
of his. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to get to.
My thing is, everything is not a symptom of an IEP. We know that to be true, but you're right. Parents like to play that role, and administrators like to play that role too, because of less paperwork and stuff for them to deal with too. Oh, it's part of disability. We can't do nothing with it. Oh, we don't have to discipline them. They're not disciplining nobody anyway.
One tell me I couldn't even write a referral.
Right. We
for a
had
child that had
they just passing from class to class to class. Remember that? Just, they can't handle being in this math class, come to this math class. Oh, they can't handle being in this math class, come to the next math class. So instead of dealing with the child, you are uprooting this child and moving them around the building to trying to find a teacher that can handle it. That's not, what about all the other students involved? What about all the other students impacted by this one child and our decision, instead of dealing with whatever they got going on for real?
Well, I really think the goal is, not for an IEP to be like a crutch for children. I think we need to give them what they need. Like I said, some students do need it. Okay, they have been identified.
Yeah. Right.
They need it. What is the process for giving them what they need and then helping them to come off the IEP? Because I've seen where I had a student before, just wasn't a purpose for him to continue to be on it. So we got him off of it.
And I think that same year I had a couple of students, and I'm looking at the IEP and I'm like, why is this child still on an IEP? And there are a lot of special education teachers that won't go some of them won't go the extra mile of actually trying to remove the child off of the IEP. And I've had one particular student who was actually gifted and had an IEP. Well, and their accommodations weren't specific to, her intelligence, because special education or being gifted is on a spectrum. It's just that with special education is on one end, or a child needing certain modifications with their academics, and then gifted is on the other spectrum. It's all one spectrum where kids need specific things to tailor to their individual needs. Mm-hmm. But with this particular child, I'm like, why does she have an IEP and she's gifted? Mm. But they ended up taking her off, and she's in the gifted classes in high school now. Yeah. So it just depends on the child, I guess.
And it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. To pull a child off of an IEP?
No, to actually do IEPs. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, some schools, I guess every school has a method, but I guess, to properly do one, like it's a lot of work on a special educational teacher to keep up with the IEP, making sure that, the child is being properly accommodated by what is in that legal document. Yes. As well as the general education teachers, supposed to as well, but I guess it's more so on the special education teacher in the classroom to make sure that the child are, getting the services that they need. But, it's a lot of upkeep. It's a lot of things, that special education teachers have to do. I guess that's why, school receive funding. Like, you get funding for IEPs. You don't get funding for 504s.
Who gets funding? The parents?
The school.
Again, where I said this in our last, when I did special education, what money?
It's not for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't get that.
Supposed to.
So who gets it? We're supposed to get it, right?
To be able to buy certain things for your classroom.
Let me rephrase what I said. It's for you, but it's not for you.
Got it. So that I could help this child become a better, productive student.
Keep them on that IEP so we can keep this train coming. What you talking about?
Now, is it true that schools, depending on how many students on with IEPs or 504s, that they receive funding? Yeah. Is that what you all are talking about?
Yeah. But
there's a benefit.
You don't get funding for 504s.
Not 504s. IEPs.
I'm saying the school, not the teachers.
So yes, and that is why oftentimes I won't say often, but that is why some schools, like if they have a high gifted population, because gifted is also individual,
right, on education. That spectrum that I was talking about. Right.
I'm gonna put them on an IEP so I can get that same money. Oh. So that's how I can then pay for additional technologies, additional resources, which is what we should be doing for
the
students.
Money's not being allocated to the special education teachers, being allocated other.
Oh, maybe I wasn't gonna say that part out loud,
but maybe that's what happened with our other schooling, because I was really trying to figure that out.
That's what happened to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
We had a lot of clerks. Yeah.
Wow. It's been a year to figure that out. Thanks, Nikki. Thank you.
You sure you want to follow Rhodes' lead?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you live in...
I mean, we're out
because there are a lot
dangerous.
Because there are a lot of teachers that are special education teachers, and they're not sending... Look, if you are a special education teacher, go and ask if you're supposed to get some funding, for supplies for your class. Go and ask because you're supposed to.
Yeah.
If you are a special education teacher, go and ask if you are supposed to get some type of stipend or some type of money allocated toward your department to better serve your students.
Didn't they give y'all $100 that one year?
No.
Oh. And somebody got $100 that year. I'm not going to say no names, but there were certain special ed teachers that did get that $100 that one year.
Well, I guess it's par for the course. Now.
Yeah, well, I know at least one got it.
What?
Yeah.
Got what?
$100 for resources for their special education classroom that had no students. And I am not even kidding.
They had no students and got resources?
There were no students in that classroom because they were always in my classroom. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, that happened for real. I just thought everybody, because I was jealous. I was jealous. I was like, why are you
trying to drag? I have no parts of this.
They can't give me that.
Yeah,
but folks want your head. You telling people they're going to jail. Now you talking about folks.
I just know that I was not trying to be involved in the fall. So I was just trying to share the knowledge that I already had. Like, I went and paid and took the course to make sure that I was ready. Because I didn't want to, just like I went and got ESOL certified for the same reason. Because I was like, I need to make sure, because again, it goes back to, I wanted to serve the students sitting in my classroom. I was sitting there learning Spanish again, trying to make sure I knew everything that I needed to know because they're in my classroom. I needed to be able to do what I needed to do.
You're such a good teacher.
I was trying.
Wow.
I was trying. But they run you off. It is what it is. But that's why, to go back to what we were talking about, that's why I feel like I'm looking at kids who they didn't need all those resources. Maybe they needed some additional support, and a lot of it just seemed like there was a lack of foundation. But I think that, I'm going to say this as a parent and as an educator, we owe it to our kids to make sure that they get the foundation they need to get a strong start. But it's also not too late to add in. If you realize, they're in 5th grade or 3rd grade and you're like, okay, they're falling behind, those grades are low, it's not too late to go get them a tutor or ask the teachers to ask me.
Right. You have to do stuff beyond school. Like, I had a student, he's very high functioning, and he didn't have, I can't remember what his learning disability was, but he was more so of, they were wanting to, just make him more aware of when to like cut conversations off and things of that nature. But he was very high functioning. But I said that to say all of this, that his parents did their due diligence when it came to after school things that they were putting him in, tutoring that he was getting. So, we say it all the time, whether it's students that are on IEP or general education students, like, there should be something beyond school.
Yes.
Your child should be getting some type of tutoring. If you cannot afford it, there's always, we get on YouTube to find so many things. There's Khan Academy. There's so many resources for free that are out there that, we should be introducing that and putting that in front of our children's face, because because they have an IEP or a learning disability, that is just,
you're the magicians at the school. You're supposed to turn it. You're supposed to be turning the child. Of course, you do what you are contractually obligated to do, but you're supposed to turn this child into,
Einstein somehow.
Yeah.
From
whatever. It's your job. That's what I send my child to school.
So
is
much
the mentality. It's
that's
you.
The mentality that it's our job to figure it out and to fix it.
It's our fault. That's what the people said in the comment. What are the teachers doing? Why are the kids, are not being able to read?
You know what? I saw that so many times, and every time I saw it, it pissed me off.
What are you all?
Because
what are the teachers doing?
What do you want me as the math teacher at the 6th grade? What in the world am I supposed to do with your child reading on a 2nd grade level who can't add, can't subtract, and you not helping them at home? And I send the homework and you send the homework back blank to me. You ain't watched no videos. You ain't made no phone calls. You have not reached out to me. What do you want me to do with that?
Well, you're the magician.
You're right. I forgot.
I had a child on my caseload one time. Child did no work. Now, it wasn't that he wasn't capable of doing the work, because come during finals, he would get an 80 or a 90 and did no work all semester, which meant that he was either bored or not being challenged enough. So come during his IEP meeting, the AP is in the meeting and he says, okay, well, I know he's not doing his work. Why don't we give him more accommodations? I said, we're not giving him another accommodation on here. I'm not doing it. He needs to do his work. I'm not putting anything else on this IEP. If he sits down and does his work, then he will be fine. I said, matter of fact, to be honest with everybody on this meeting, he needs to actually sit down.
Come to school.
He needs to come to school, because I think you know what I'm talking about. He needs to come to school. He needs to actually stop drawing every single class period. Stop drawing me pictures. And then maybe if he does his work, we all wouldn't even be in this meeting together. Everybody was just silent, just looking. So no, we're not putting another to include. I'm like, Mom, he's not doing his work. Stop babying him.
They're just there to me.
Stop wasting my time.
I think, for some parents, it's just somewhere I have to be.
And that's not right.
It's a child that ends up suffering through all of that, because like we talked about, they're going to graduate high school or they're going to leave high school. Either they're going to age out or they're going to graduate.
They're going to be right down in mom and in the basement.
House. I told a parent that one time.
But it is some parents that are advocating for their students. So go ahead, Rose.
But no, I had a parent that I said that to one day on the phone. I said that because this is my student that couldn't even write his or tell you how to spell his name in the 6th grade. Which I was
he was on an IEP?
No.
No. Okay.
He was in and she wanted him on one. And I mean, at that point, I already knew what the problem was.
What was the problem?
She was doing the work too. She was doing the homework and failing it.
The mom was doing the work.
Mom was doing the work, still failing it. But I told her, I said,
but he couldn't put the name on it.
He couldn't spell it. And I kid you not.
He couldn't spell his name.
He could not spell it.
Wow.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well. So when I talked to her one day, I said, I need to be honest with you. I said, your child is going to live with you for the rest of your life because this is the type of stuff you're doing. And I found out she did the work because she slipped up and told me. And I said, well, how would you know? Like, you did it. And she said, well, I was just trying to help him and he was just tired of doing it. And I know it had to be turned in. So I just went on and finished it. And I was like, it's still wrong.
Yeah.
And I said, he's going to live with you forever. You are his crutch. You are his problem. You are the problem. You're not setting him up for success. And you keep going down this track. And he's going to get out of high school because he's going to age out because he ain't going to graduate. And he's going to come right back to your house or he's going to go to jail, one of the two, because you're not putting him in a position to be successful, whatever that's going to look like for him. And she was upset that I said that to her and went to the principal. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't, because at the end, what do you want me to do with that? You're doing his work for him and you failing to work. He not taking a note.
And the mama really supposed to be on the IEP.
Mama need the IEP.
You said the mom need to be on the IEP.
Well, she doing the work.
When you doing the work and getting the F with the whole internet at your house.
It ain't the kids. Mama didn't want to be on the IEP. Like, they packing these. So, some public school, they packing this thing out with the IEP. You know they ain't collecting no data for real because you know you ain't collecting
I
the
can
data.
tell you they're not collecting data.
Especially when you do the review for the IEP. You ain't got no documents.
For Gen Ed, if we collect data for one, we're supposed to collect data for all. Whether they have an IEP or not. So
I know.
Yeah. But I'm saying, so and I'm not making excuses because that's the requirement. But it does get tedious to your point. That's a lot. 35 kids, 4 times a day. That's a lot of kids to try to get all those data points for. And so what they'll tell us will take.
That's a quizzes and a ticket out the door.
That's right.
Well, we would collect that. Sure.
Yes or no answer.
But then they said, well, you need certain data for the other kids. Right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And that's all.
I don't like it. But no, I mean, that's not an excuse, honestly, but I think is that's what it's used as. I'm just saying, throwing it out there that people do use it because I had my notebook. So
what you doing with your notebook?
That's how I track my data. I would have a notebook that I would keep on me. So whenever I was doing that stuff, I could do it real time right then and then put it in the system. It was just faster because I was walking around.
For all of your kids or just?
I had a different notebook for everything.
And was it beneficial to the growth of your students?
I could track it because I would put it, eventually I had an Excel and I would literally be able to see whether they were trending up and down, what skills they were struggling with, and I could give them work because we used to use Khan Academy and I would say, okay, you need to go and do this assignment or that assignment. But I knew what I was looking for.
Right.
Because you do, in order to take the data, you have to be prepared for ahead of time for what am I looking for if they're in this bucket. Right. So I knew. So I would plan my lessons like that. So I knew what I was looking for.
And that's all you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but teachers don't. That's a lot more work. It's more work than just saying, let me teach this lesson and go home.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is. It really is. And imagine, So
you have to differentiate.
But they said, why we're not reading
the lesson, differentiate everything in small group stations, quizzes, coloring.
At the same time.
Say coloring.
This group got a color, let you build a model right here. Like,
it's a lot.
We color in math too, don't we?
It's a lot. I have to be small group sometimes.
I do too.
Teachers need to be paid more. Like, anyway,
that's another
All right.
Well,
we tired. We going.
Yeah, we just tired, y'all. It's been a long February. January long too.
Well, Miss Rose, take us out. Miss
Okay.
Rose, take us out. Miss Rose,
Should
take
have
us
some
out. Ooh,
beverages.
ooh.
Anyways,
ooh.
well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of The Real Teachers of Atlanta. Make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the places at Real Teachers of Atlanta.
OnlyFans.
Not there. We are not running back. We are not running back. No toes over here,
We
okay?
are not on OnlyFans.
not OnlyFans. Anyways, bye, y'all.
Bye.
The OnlyFans. Gotta get everybody put out OnlyFans.
That's why you're doing it for the 2020.
Listen.
Hey, if you enjoyed our show today and would like to see more content like this, make sure you follow and like our YouTube channel at Real Teachers of Atlanta.
We got the queens in the house, y'all.